I'm Salad and I saw Samurai Cop. It is directed and written by Amir Shervan, and if you haven't seen this movie, I will spoil it for you. I samurai'd too hard and the tip got samurai'd off. But also what's fun about this sword is that unlike Joe, unlike Samurai Cop himself, I actually have a sword. You know, in friggin' this movie, Joe Marshall never has a sword at any time. The only time that he has a sword is when he encounters the guy who's got a sword and I'm gonna disable you, I'm gonna disarm you, and then he never takes or steals that guy's sword. He only uses the sword maybe once at the very end, after he takes it or whatever. I'm like, but why is he called Samurai Cop? What's the entire point? Why is it Samurai Cop? Impromptu rant aside, what happens at the very beginning of this movie? We're following the Katana. It's a Japanese gang in LA, and we have Joe Marshall is trying to stop these guys for whatever reason. Okay, here is how the story goes. We got a bunch of action, which is unintentionally really funny. How is it funny? It's just, oh, well, it looks like this is some weird bad acting. This is some very strange, oh, well, it's, you are going to get kissed on the head as a result of taking orders from you. What is this workplace? And then that was just left in. Actually, all the first takes of this movie were just left in. So all we have is the first takes, almost never a second retake in this movie. We just have the actors just doing whatever they got. This is kind of like an Ed Wood situation, but if Ed Wood had no heart and was really frustrating to work with throughout the entirety of the production, that's what this guy is. The guy, you know, the guy, what's his freaking name? What did I just call him? Amir Shervan, the director and writer. That's what working with this guy was like. Because I was so intrigued by watching this movie that I had to look up some facts about the production, about the behind the scenes of this movie. Because this movie, I was mentioning this earlier before, it goes from action scenes and then bam, sex scenes. No transition whatsoever. It's just so jarring. I'm so jarred by it. I'm like, what is happening here? Why is Joe having sex with a chick? Weren't we just investigating the Katana? Weren't we just investigating the Samurai Cop? I'm a Samurai Cop, even though I don't have a samurai sword. I always just found that to be very annoying. So pretty much the entire plot goes, oh, well, Joe versus the Katana. Joe versus the Katana, but also you got the Katana boys. They're not accidentally killing each other, but Joe comes in and inspires them to be murdered, and they actually end up murdering themselves. But also Joe murders the rest of the Katana. What? Okay, this movie is just straight up hard for me to even keep track of, because I see a lot of unintentional funny lines, bad acting, and these freaking monologues, man. We have the monologues, and it seems like, where did they come from? Why are they now in a random office? Weren't they just in the beach? Weren't they just outside? And now we're just in a different location and we're fighting? And now it's just so jarring how many location switches there are within a scene. And the most egregious part has to be when we're having them just be in a hallway and the cameras just sit there and they're just bopping around. Boop-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. They're just bopping around. And I'm like, why are they bopping around here? Weren't they just outside? What is going on here? And why does Samurai Cop not have a samurai sword? Who is supposed to be Samurai Cop? Joe got the chick. Okay, he's got the chick that causes the police to just murder everyone in the Katana gang. Oh, the leader's chick, I'm gonna sleep with her. I'm like, why are you doing this? You suck as a person. Why would you do this? It just seems so rude. Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? I'm so sad. Honestly, I'm so sad because he never gets his samurai sword until the very end. He's able to use a samurai sword, and then he picks up the samurai sword, and he does a floop, and it just doesn't work. He doesn't use it for very long, and it makes me very sad and scared, because I'm like, please, just use your samurai sword. Just use it so it'll work. What is going on here? Wow, just use the sword. You know, he doesn't. This movie is hard to talk about because I just talked about the most interesting parts about this movie. Honestly, I told you the plot. I told you what makes this movie unintentionally funny. It's just the editing kind of sucks. Oh, it's just the editing. It's the acting. I also read main guy who played Joe Marshall he did intentionally bad edits. I mean, he did intentionally bad performance, so he would think that the director would just edit whatever out, and then he ended up using it. What's funny also is that the director just constantly was like, oh, well, we're done with shooting, and then come back a month later and be like, oh, well, it's actually time to shoot more things, and Joe got a haircut because he thought he was done with shooting, and then a month later he's like, oh, what, you just cut off your hair? I'm like, but you didn't communicate that, dude. You should have communicated that, and why did it take you so long? And this wasn't even supposed to be out in the first place. This was like hidden, this was abandoned, but it was discovered and released to the world. And it's like, what? This is such a strange film. Production, man. The production of a film really makes or breaks the project. It's not just the bad acting, it's the bad writing, it's the bad editing, it's the bad pacing, it's the bad transitions, it's all of it is bad. But it's so bad that it gets really funny at several points. I'm like, oh wow, this is really funny. I'm curious if the director was even in on this joke, and then I had to look it up and spew all the facts and knowledge that I just shared. And you know how funny that unintentionally this is funny? This is so unintentionally funny, man. I feel bad for the director. I wonder where he's at now. Also, the director, I looked up into him. He's IMDb page. He's got a lot of movies that he's done, and all these movies get like a 3.8, maybe like a 4 on his IMDb score. But then there's like one that's actually middling, like a 6. I'm like, oh boy, you should have just stuck to thinking that this is how you're supposed to make a movie. Like, oh boy, you thought this is how you make a movie? This guy is somehow unintentionally really funny. What do you think of this movie of samurai cop? Samurai copping all over the place. I go, boom, 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 pow, 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 pow. Samurai cop. I'm a more effective cop than this samurai cop is in this movie, Samurai Cop. It's samurai copping time. What'd you think of Samurai Cop? When was the first time you watched Samurai Cop? Did someone be like, hey, look at Samurai Cop, check this out, this will be a totally serious movie, and then you watched it and they're like, this is totally not a serious movie? Or just let me know of your experience in this let me know of your Samurai Cop experience in the comments below. I gotta know, because this is so freaking insane. But hey, you gotta watch this. So like, okay, cool, I'll watch Samurai Cop because someone actually requested it on Patreon. Patreon.com/ASEPresents. Someone asked me to review this, and I was like, sure, okay. And you know, I never look into at all that, what is this movie I'm about to review? I never do that. I just like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just see, let's just go in blind. And then this is probably the only movie where I've really felt interested, felt intrigued enough by the production that I actually did look up some facts and figures about this film. You're welcome. Because this movie is so ridiculous. It's so funny in its own way. I like it. So it's got like a 4.2 out of 10. If you like this review, watch another one. The platform really likes that. If you want to fast track a movie review, you can do that for $20 Redinos at patreon.com/ASEPresents. And if you'd like to help support the daily grind of this of all them daily movie reviews, go to this link tree, find the way you can help support the daily grind of all them daily movie reviews. So go here. And until next time, in salad sauce, see you later, my style croutons and bacon bits. Oh, it's time for me to fight some guys. They just showed up. They're not really attacking me that much until I swing at them. Boom! Boom!